Okay, for today's lesson, we're doing Module 5, Lesson 26. By the end of the lesson, you'll be able to say, I can decompose whole number fractions greater than 1. The materials needed for today's lesson are your whiteboard supplies if you'd like to follow along with me. If you don't have those, you can use paper pencil. Lesson 26 problem set and homework if you have the paper version, or you can just use the link to complete them on Classkick. And then a pencil if you're writing stuff down, or your device if you're doing stuff on the computer. The first thing we need to do is figure out, are these two models equivalent? So here's model 1, which is a number bond, and here is model 2, which is also a number bond. So what I'm going to do is first look at the inside part of model 1. And I notice that the bottom number for all of them is a 2. So I know to have one whole, I need the top number and the bottom number to be the same. So if I need 2 in the bottom number, that means I need 2 in the top number. So what I'm going to do is circle 2 of those. Because if I add the 1 and the 1 together, I get 2. So this would really equal 2 over 2, which equals 1 whole. So I'm going to do the same thing with these 2 halves. So I end up having 2 halves, which is the same as 1 whole. So the middle part here is actually 2 wholes, okay? So that middle part equals 2 wholes. Now I'm going to look at the outside part. Okay, and the bottom number on all of these pieces is 4. So I know I'm going to need 4 of them to equal 1 whole, or to make the top number and the bottom number the same. So I'm going to go ahead and circle 4 of them. That equals 4/4, which is the same as 1 whole. I'm going to circle the other 4. That's also the same as 4/4, which equals 1 whole. Okay, so if I look at the inside of the number bond, there are 2 wholes, and the outside of the number bond are 2 wholes. So I'm going to draw a little one over here. Really, I have 2 wholes in the middle, and then I have 1 whole and 1 whole. This one is 4/4, which is this. This one is the same as 4/4, which is this, okay? So now let's look at model 2 and see what model 2 equals. Let's start with the middle. Bottom number is 2 again, so we're going to do the same thing that we did before, okay? Those equal 2 halves, which is the same as 1 whole. This equals 2 halves, which is the same as 1 whole. That's the same thing as it was over here because it's the same middle part. There are 4 1/2 pieces, okay? 2 halves equals 1 whole, and 2 halves equals 1 whole. Okay, so next we're going to look at the outside here. Well, the top number and the bottom number are already the same. We know if the top number and bottom number are the same, that equals 1 whole. So for both of these 4/4, that's the same as 1 whole. So just like on our other number bond, if we put this one and this one together, that equals 2 wholes. If we put these 2 together, that equals 2 wholes. So are model 1 and model 2 the same? And our answer would be yes. And that's because this model, model 1, is equal to 2 wholes. Model 2 is also equal to 2 wholes, okay? So they just did that by breaking apart the fraction. So this middle part and both of them are the same, The only part that's different are the outsides, but you can make this 4/4 match up with this one. All they did was break the 4/4 into 4 different pieces, but we really know that still equals 4/4. All right, so let's go to the next page. Draw a number line with endpoints 0 and 2. So let's do that first. So 0 and 2. Label it in fourths. So first, to do that, I need to break up this 0 and 2, and I'm going to put another line here in the middle and label it with a 1 because I know that 1 comes between 0 and 2. Now I know between 0 and 1, I need to break it into fourths. So I'm going to do 3 equally spaced lines, and that ends up giving us 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. I need to do the same thing between 1 and 2. 3 equally spaced lines ends up giving us 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces in between 1 and 2. So now between 0 and 1, I've broken it into fourths, and between 1 and 2, I've broken it into fourths. The next step says, then make a number bond using wholes as the parts. Oh, we need to label the fourths. I'm sorry, let's go back and label the fourths. Then we're going to do our number bond. So it's in fourths, so my bottom number is going to be a 4, and it's going to stay a 4 for every single one of the lines. The bottom number does not change because we have broken our number line into fourths. Now, the first one is 0 because we have not gone anywhere yet. Now, if we were to make one jump, we would be at 1/4. Another jump, 2/4, and so on. 3/4, we're just counting up. 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, and finally 8/4. And that makes sense because we jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. You might notice that 0/4 lines up with 0, 4/4 lines up with 1 whole, and that's because, remember, when the top number and the bottom number are the same, that equals 1 whole. And then the 2 lines up with 8/4. We know when the top number is bigger than the bottom number, it means that we have more than 1 whole. So that makes sense that we have more than 1 whole. Now we can go to the next step, which is making a number bond using the wholes as parts. So first I'm going to start in my middle part of the number bond. I have 2 wholes, so in my number bond, this needs to be 2 wholes. Well, I know that 2 wholes is the same as 8/4, so I'm going to write that 2 equals 8/4 because they're the same thing. Now, because I have 2 wholes, my number bond needs 2 parts. Okay, the first part is going to be 1 whole, and this one is going to be 1 whole. So this one here on the left is going to represent our 0 to 1, which was 1, 2, 3, 4 fourths. And we know this 1 whole was the same as 4/4. Now this piece also represents 1 whole, but we can't put 8/4 because that's what we have total. So we need to figure out how much in between this 1 whole and 2. And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/4. So each of those pieces is 1 whole or 4/4. And when you put them together, you get 2 wholes, which is the same as 8/4. So essentially what we've done is we broke down our number line, and then we put it into a number bond form with each whole also representing a fraction. That brings us to our Classkick Remember, on Classkick, please make sure you are typing your first and last name. So I would type Mrs. E, or my first and last name, or just my first name, my last initial. We do have a couple people with the same name, so you really have to make sure you're typing your name in. I've also had some people put in names that I did not know. I've had some names get put in of people that are not even in our class. I've had people just type in random letters. You have to remember that if you don't type in your name, the name that I know you by, then it is not going to match up with your name in Classkick, and I can't grade it if I don't know whose work it is. So if you type in a nickname that I don't know, you're not going to end up with a grade. So please make sure you're putting in what your name is that I call you by in class. All right, so we are on Module 5, Lesson 26, and it says, partition the number line to show the fractional units. Okay, so first we've got a number line, and it wants us to partition or break it up into parts. Then draw number bonds using copies of one whole for the circled whole numbers. So they kind of broke that down for us. Here under 0, obviously there's no number bond because you have nothing. For 1, there's one whole, and we have one piece because there's only one piece in one whole. And here we have 2 wholes, which means we needed 2 pieces. Okay, so they did that part for you on the first one. Use the line function to draw in marks. You write number bond answers in fractional form. So now that we've read the whole question, let's go back and do it piece by piece. So first we need to partition the number line. And I added in here that you need to use the line function to draw in the mark. So we're going to come up here. This is the add line. We're going to click that. If this is halves, so this says halves right here, between 0 and 1, I'm going to draw one line here. I've broken that part in half, which I know is the same as having 2 equal pieces. So here's 1 piece and 2 pieces. Now I'm going to get the line again, and I'm going to do the same thing between 1 and 2 because that's a different whole. And I broke that whole into 2 pieces. Now I'm going to need to label those pieces. All right. So first here, well, we have 0 halves, so 0 equals 0 halves, which is the same thing as 0 over 2, or 0 halves. Okay, so here we just have it in unit form, and down here we have it in fraction form. Okay, next, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use my pen function, and I'm going to label, because this is 0, but then it skips this one. Well, I know that this is 1 half. If I'm counting up 0, 1, that must make this one 2. So I'm going to type in here 2 halves, which is 1 whole equals 2 halves. So remember, same thing. It's just this one is unit form and this one is fraction form. And then there's nothing here, but I'm going to write in 3 halves, and that's just to help me keep track. Okay, I'm counting up 0, 1, 2, 3. Next must be 4. So here we have 2 whole equals 4 halves, 2 equals 4 halves, and we put it in unit form. They did it in fraction form for us. Now we come down to our number bond. Well, right under 1 whole, you see you have a number bond with 1 whole. And in fraction form, because it says, right, number bond answers in fractional form. So in this part right here, we can't write 1 because we have to do it in fraction form. So I'm going to look up here, and over here in fraction form, I put 1 equals okay, so next I need to look at what my other piece is going to be. So how many jumps did it take to get from 1 to 2 wholes? 1, 2, 3. So same thing here, 3/3. Okay, And that's because we're working in thirds, so the bottom number is always going to be 3. Bottom number 3, 3, up here, 3, 3, 3, okay? If I'm broken into thirds, the bottom number is going to stay 3 in all of my answers. Now, as I'm breaking the number bond apart, in order to have one whole, the top number and the bottom number need to be the same. So if I'm breaking apart my wholes, the top number is going to be 3 and the bottom number is going to be 3. And I know that 3/3 equals 1, 3/3 equals 1. So really, this is just like a number bond of 1 and 1 that equals 2. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay? So it's going to be the same thing for 3 wholes. You're going to have 3/3 and 3/3 and 3/3, which is just like having 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. Then when we look at 4, same thing, we have 3/3, 3/3, 3/3, 3/3, which is just like having 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, which equals 4. Okay? So that is it for the problem set. Remember that you need to come in and you need to click the arrow to get to the homework page. The problem set page is optional since you're watching it get done with me. The homework page is the one that is graded. Now it does say out of 21 points, but you do need to make sure that you partition your number lines because that is part of where you're going to get points in Google Classroom. So you're going to do the same thing. You'll have sixths and fifths. Okay, so first partition your number line or break it up into parts. Then label each of those wholes in unit form and fraction form, and then complete the number bond. Remember the number bond, your pieces, the top number and the bottom number need to be the same in order to represent one whole. Remember, if you have any questions, you can always join in my office hours from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Thursday, or you can join in during your classes check-in meeting on Tuesdays or Thursdays. If any of those times don't work for you and you're really struggling, just reach out to me on Google Classroom or have your parents reach out to me, and we can try to set something up to help you get through this. Okay. I'm going to go back to my slideshow, going to go ahead and start the 10-minute timer for you. Remember, work for 10 minutes. If you're still not done when it goes off, take a 5-minute break and go back to it. If you still don't understand it, then you really need to make sure you reach out to me for help. Okay, so that is it for today's lesson. Remember, take a 5-minute break if you haven't finished yet. Go back, try it again. If you still need help, please reach out to me. And hopefully I'll see you in a Zoom meeting this week.